Hey everyone, welcome to a very special episode of Tice's Tech Track. This is episode 8, and if you don't know Tice's Tech Track, it is a podcast series in which I, Tice, will document my tech track, so kind of like my journey through building online businesses and just going throughout the whole like online startup and indie hacker journey. But this episode is actually not about me. It's about my friend Codey Orgill right here. We've known each other for probably like 5 years at this point, right? Like it's been quite a long time. But we've never met up in person until this moment. So it's very, very exciting to finally see him in person. And we got this nice little apartment right here to sort of, make a bit of content in. And this is one of those things that I really wanted to do because I know him from when I was doing the bicycle touring. So this is like my other channel, TravelingTice, and his channel, Codey Orgill, where he was uploading, just like bicycle touring videos. But we both kind of pivoted a little bit, and he did a very interesting thing where he built up a blog, a very niche blog in a specific industry. I think it was like the bicycle touring industry, or more of like just the cycling industry, right? Like just bicycles and that sort of stuff, and that became quite a success for a little while. So this story, I think, has got some crazy twists and turns as well. So I'm very excited to just get right into it. So Codey, how did you maybe give us like a little bit of like a timeline of like how things started out from those like bicycle touring day? And I think that you also did thrifting at the time, right? That was sort of like your starting moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, give us a bit of a rundown of it all.
Yeah, first of all, Tice, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries.
Tice is I love the name of the channel. It's really all encompassing of like where you've been, like because we both started, as Tice was saying, with bike touring, and our journeys have pivoted and deviated, and we're back, like we're here together now, like talking to each other. It's quite fascinating. So I love the whole idea of this.
Cool.
And I'm so grateful to be a part of it. But my journey, it did start with thrifting. So I was experimenting. I was always eager to get into content creation, and I've always been creative, and I've always sort of struggled to find my outlet. And I discovered it through like documenting my adventures in thrifting. So like going to op shops, and buying things from op shops and then selling them on eBay, and buying books, used books and these kind of things, and selling them on Amazon. And this was a way for me to create income that I was hoping could sustain my travels. It wasn't the best plan for that type of lifestyle, but it was a stepping stone to getting me to where I was.
It's not very location independent, you would say?
That's correct.
Okay.
Because I started off with this idea of wanting to make money on my own and do my own thing, and I was trying to figure it out, and I found these guys on YouTube that were creating content for eBay and thrifting and this kind of niche much earlier, I think, before it became really popular. And I was watching those guys' videos, like the OGs of it, way back in the day. And they sort of, there was something instilled in their content creation that created this spark inside of me for me to want to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I just naturally just picked up the camera, started recording my journey as I was doing that, as I started that. So I would have been maybe 17 or something when I started this. And I picked up my camera, I went to these op shops, and I'm like, hey guys, this is me. And I watched back the videos today, and I'm like, wow, this is so crazy to see like how far you've come.
I got the same reaction. I got the same reaction when I see like my old bicycle touring videos. It's the exact same thing. It's like, wow, like you started when you were like, we were both about the same age. I think I was 18 or just turned 18 when I really started doing like the bicycle touring. So it's interesting to see like where you started and how you've grown over the years.
And isn't it beautiful to watch back those videos? It's almost like a visual diary, right? It's like it takes you back to that moment, like when you were living in that experience. You might not remember that if you. I mean,
you'll
forget
it, things.
You know what I mean? Like you actually it's like a portal. It's like a time machine. YouTube's like a time machine, hey? If you watch back old stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. But my journey with that is I was just putting out content. I built a little following there in that niche industry. I don't know. I feel like I kind of reached a bit of a ceiling there when I was creating content. And maybe my passion fell out of it as well, only because I was deviating into that direction of wanting to travel and sustain travel, and location independence was very important.
Yeah.
And that kind of business model didn't suit that as a solution. So
because it's also very dependent on location, I guess. Like you probably know like the Australian thrifting market very well.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to go to like different places, but if you were to go to like different places, then might different rules might apply. Would that be something that you might not be able to take it to like different places, or?
That's correct, and it's also I think just the tangible idea of like actually holding on to items when you're on a bike.
Yeah, that's
like you need to be minimalist as it is with the gear that you have, right? Like, you need to let go of things that are probably a necessity for everyday life. Like you need to cut down on that bare minimum, like very minimalistic way of living and traveling. So being able to buy things as you travel and then hold them, I'm sure you could have done it. Like back then, I probably wasn't as open-minded to the idea, because I'm thinking about it now. Like you could have got like a bike trailer. You know, that would be epic content, hey? Like you could have got a bike trailer, put all my gear in the back as I'm buying it. Yeah. Like I'm thinking about that now. Like
do you have others, like other thrifter, location independent people, or might be a first?
Well, yeah.
Or you do have them?
Oh, you do have them? I'm not sure.
Oh, you're not sure?
I'm unfortunately like not in that space as much as I was.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay.
And I was talking to some of the guys that are in that space, and it's grown quite a bit in the Australian space.
Cool,
And it's so fascinating that I kind of want to get back into it, which would be cool, but with like a little twist of travel, so you never know.
Yeah, there you go.
That could be cool. Okay. But yeah, like the journey started with that, hey, and then I went to, eternally forever grateful for this opportunity, I went to the Green Room meetup. So these were the guys who I was watching that were creating thrifting videos about the kind of content that I was creating that got me started in this space, and I went to one of their meetups there. And it was a networking opportunity. I was 18, and this is the first.
I was pretty early on.
Yeah, this is really early on. I just took the leap of faith, and I'd never been to another country, so I flew all the way to America. And
it was in the USA.
Yeah, met up with some people there on the internet friends. You know what I mean? Like back then, it was a bit of a scary thing, I guess. But yeah, I just took the leap, and I went there. Went to that meetup, and met some awesome people, and then. That's kind of a pivotal moment in my journey where a lot of it did pivot, it did shift. Because I was focused on that as an income source, and then I met up with CP, Eric. You've had him on your other channel.
Yeah, exactly. I do have an interview with him as well, indeed. But that was already like 5 years ago when you guys were like, sort of like the bike touring, you know, the, what do you call it? The bike touring duo, and it's quite like some nice videos of you two.
Like actually. Japan and...
Exactly, and the USA as well.
And US.
Yeah.
So that's where it all started. So because that's crazy. I met up with him for that conference that was linked to thrifting. So that was the whole idea of that. And he was bicycle touring across the country to this event.
Oh, no way.
So I met up with him there and started talking, and I had a previous interest in cycling before, but it was more it wasn't competitive, but it was more into road cycling with group rides with friends, because I just got into it from high school. Like a teacher introduced cycling to me, and they're like, you should get a bike and come ride with us. Okay. So that's kind of where cycling started, and then after that, I tried a couple of tours before I went on this trip. But like nothing ever was successful. I kind of failed a little bit like here and there. Like it's just like didn't have any Ortler panniers. I had like these real like cheap panniers that ripped and all the stuff broke and everything went everywhere. It was a complete disaster. But I went to that meetup, met CP, and he invited me on this trip. And I got a bike from the used store. Like he gifted, he gifted me this Navara Randony with an old school touring bike. Yeah, it was his bike. He gifted it to me. And let me use that to ride across the country, eternally grateful. And from that moment on, I was hooked into the slow, immersive, beautiful essence of bicycle touring as a form of travel, like a human-powered way of traveling. Yeah. And I guess we could talk about some other things that we'll probably get to a bit later, but that's sort of fusing into my direction moving forward today in terms of that style of travel and how that's transforming. But the journey, it was so cool. Getting into that. I
had no idea that's kind of like how you met up with Eric, you know, like the. But now it sort of makes sense because Eric is also a thrifter. He's still doing it, I think. Yeah, like he's still the college picker is still doing the thrifting and stuff like that. Yeah. And then that's how you met up, and that's how like that sort of chapter, I guess, sort of started for you, right, with the bicycle touring and that sort of stuff, which is very interesting. And now I'd like to get to like the part where. So you're doing like the bicycle touring, you're doing a bit of the thrifting, but I guess at some point there was maybe this other yearning that I also felt myself at some point where this was not going to be fully sustainable just yet. You know, like we both have channels that, you know, had a bit of like a following at the time, but it wasn't substantial enough to like keep things sustainable. So I guess we both sort of at some moment in our lives started to look for like other ways to, how to say, like get an income in some ways, right? To say like brutally honestly, but that's sort of how it is, right? So he was looking online and well, I did the web development route and you went sort of like in the blogging space. So can you maybe tell about like that, how you went from like, just how you discovered like that blogging thing, like how you got into that sort of stuff?
Yeah, because I was looking for avenues that matched with travel.
Yes.
Right? That could streamline that process. And I had a very humble goal. Like I wanted to make like $1,000, maybe $2,000 a month, so I could travel on my bike across the world.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need much.
And if I could just get that, just to pay for food, because you don't really need accommodation. You just camp wherever you want. You know, camp on the side of the road and just fuel your body with food. That's all you need to worry about.
Yeah, you can do it so cheaply. Yeah, you can do it so cheaply as well. Like it's so beautiful. You don't need much for that sort of a lifestyle. So that's why I understand the humble goal. Yeah,
it was a very humble goal, and I shot for that, and there's quite a few people that have helped me on my journey, and I'm eternally grateful for those people who have helped. I can name drop. There is some people in particular, like Josh, working with Josh.com. He's got his own website.
Is that the one that sort of was like this program that you sort of...
No, so he's the one who introduced me to this.
Okay.
And we're good mates till this day. And he was showing me his blog and what he was doing, and he showed me there was like this really big potential in creating a blog and monetizing a passion or a niche or some kind of topic or interest that someone has.
Yeah.
And for me, it was adventure cycling. So I took that concept and I created a blog about it. And there was a course I took the course, and that really helped a lot to ingrain like what to do exactly in that era of SEO and where that was at.
And how did you come across this course? Like, was it just a Google search, or this was through this other friend?
No, so this was Josh who introduced that to me.
Oh, right, okay.
And then I got into that, and I was just learning a lot about the whole process. And I'm a big proponent of like non-traditional education as well.
Yes.
Like I feel like there's a lot we can learn from YouTube and from other people's courses, like you know, and that kind of thing. Yeah,
which are usually people that have done it, right? Like if you go to university,
they've walked the path.
Exactly. So if you go to university, you often meet people that have always been a teacher, always been a professor, and they've never really done something themselves. Like, I don't know. I'm definitely in the same opinion as you, because like the way I got into web development was via a boot camp. So just like a 2-month, like just rapid course on everything that had to do with how to become a web developer. And the way I sort of like got into that world is because they had the network, because they like, I guess that the people that were like hiring knew that from this bootcamp are like, they actually teach the skills that you need. Well, if you have a computer science degree, like I actually have a few colleagues that have it, and they just had to like sort of learn everything from scratch again, because they only got like the abstract concepts of things, and you know, usually like universities like are a bit slow to like catch up, and the tech space is moving so fast. Like even things from like yesterday are like
education struggles to catch up.
Exactly,
right? And things, even government and these kind of things struggle to catch up. Like
100%. But I guess for some areas like it's okay, because if you want to become a doctor, like you have to of course go through like the formal education and that sort of stuff. But especially in what we are doing, I really don't think it's a necessary step you have to take. Like you can just learn so much right now from online, and especially with recently AI, it's become easier than ever to really get started on this.
It's such a beautiful time to be alive, and I know a lot of people say that, like this is the greatest time to be alive and all these things, but it is truly remarkable because we have access to a device that can literally, we can learn anything, and with ChatGPT we can use that as a tool to learn even faster, or be able to decipher information in a a way that we can understand it.
Yeah, so now you have the course, and now you also have the teacher. Right, so with ChatGPT, if there's anything, you have your personal assistant, you can ask questions and it will try to formulate things in the way you can understand them, because you can instruct it to do so, you know, and that's super powerful. But you didn't have those tools at the time just yet, but you did have this course which helped you to sort of get started, or you were already getting started and then like, can you explain a bit more about like how that sort of started happening?
Yeah. So I was shifting more. At the time, I was creating YouTube videos of my adventures, much like you were, where I was documenting my trips and all these trips I'd go on across the world on my bike. I'd film vlogs. Like in Japan, for example, we filmed like a daily vlog every day for over a month and a half, and we were uploading every day during that trip.
Crazy.
So you're riding across the country, you're filming everything, you're editing everything, and you're uploading it all in one day.
Yeah.
While experiencing it all. Yeah. And it was just a truly beautiful, creative, immersive experience. But I was focused a lot on that, and it wasn't really getting the reach that would equate to income. And that's the struggle I've always had with YouTube. And I'm working through it at the moment. We can talk about where I'm at now with everything. We'll get to that. I'm jumping around. But YouTube for me has always been a dream to monetize and actually like create substantial income from, because I love the idea, like video storytelling is just something really close to my heart, and I just love this medium to be able to communicate, because it's a very intimate way to connect with our audience.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a beautiful way to share stories and unpack ideas and all these things, and that's something I've naturally always built, but I had to shift in the realization that for me to create income that I needed in the immediate, like I had to do a blog at the time. The blog was the more feasible option, and that meant writing. And like video creation takes a lot of script writing, and you are writing, so that's part of the journey.
Right.
It all works together, I think, but I had to make that pivot and sort of understand and figure out how I could create value in that niche with what I've experienced over those years of going on those adventures, and like learning how to like find my own bike, specific bike for adventuring, because that's a big pain point that a lot of people have in that space. Is they're trying to figure out what bike to buy, and if I could help them decipher each bike and what it meant, and like break them down, like the specs of it and how that meant it would relate to where they want to travel and what limitations it might have. So I just dived into all these deep topics in that niche just to try and add as much value as I could.
Right.
And through that, it was mostly just natural, organic SEO traffic.
Interesting.
That would gain traffic, and then you just monetize that through ad and affiliate and that kind of thing.
Right.
And I took that whole concept and built that up. It took about a year or so, and about 100 to 180, about 150 articles or something like this.
Wow.
Is what I published from memory.
So you were cranking them out on like a daily basis during this year?
COVID.
So you had the time.
I took COVID as an opportunity to just go inward and just pump out all this content.
Wow.
And just write.
And do you think that, because you did this course, was it like a course that really took you by the hand and sort of like, this is the way to do it? Or did you feel like it was more of like just a guiding, like, oh, you can do this, and these are all like the different tips? Like, how did you use that course? Did you really take it to heart, or did you end up doing like a bit of your own thing?
No, I'm truly grateful for the course and the people that run it, because it's a big proponent of how successful that blog was. Because they have this process, it's like a 60-step process, literally step by step. If you follow it to the T, you're not guaranteed, but I did it and it worked for me. So, and they say 2 years, it took me a year, because I was dedicated and I wanted to just make it work during the COVID time. But having that said, I'm not too sure how well it works in today's ecosystem, because with AI, it's really disrupted the industry quite a lot. And that's where I've had to pivot currently at the moment with that, because that's the thing, like content creation, it seems like AI, and there's nothing against it, like it's helpful. I understand that when you get it to create content, but it seems like it's missing the personal essence. Right. The personality or the personal experience, which is, like valued by Google quite a lot today.
Right, okay. So do you think that Google sort of tries to anticipate this and penalize AI content, or do you think that's just a natural thing that already was part of the Google system, where it values valuable content? Because I think it takes it takes a lot of things into account. Like, for example, like the amount of time someone is spending on a certain page as well, right? So there's like a lot of things that sort of go into this SEO ranking. So
it's very complex.
You think it's like more complex than it might seem on the surface?
I think so, and I'm no expert to really understand it, but from my understanding, it's quite complex, and it's kind of messy as well, that I feel like it's not fair in a way at the moment. And some people are saying this in the industry because a lot of results that are coming up for certain search terms don't actually answer the search target, like the search query. So if you search something, sometimes the results don't really match what you search. So it's not really helpful in a way, which is confusing as a creator. And if you're someone as well that's put a lot of your personal experience and heart into content, and it actually isn't being rewarded, it is a bit of a humbling experience. It's a bit like, like you can get down on yourself, like, why me? But like at the end of the day, I guess you just have to like, that's the thing. You're putting your hand, you're putting everything into the hands of these monsters. Of Google, right? I say monsters in a friendly way, of course, right? But they're monsters as in they're just grand scale.
Yeah, we're posting this on YouTube, so we have to be a bit like, we love Google.
Yeah, make sure you get the we love Google part. We love Google. But yeah, having that said, it's just I guess that's business. You just need to keep pivoting and keep updated with the times.
Yeah. But do you think this change of events is it because of the AI content that's currently being like just thrown out there and kind of diluting the whole system, or do you really think that it's also like on Google's part where they change algorithms and because we're gonna get to this, but like the blog, well maybe let's get to this first. So
should we where the blog is now, or what happened to it?
Yeah, maybe, So you were starting with the blog. It was starting to get picked up after about a year.
Also preface as well, it was doing quite well. Like it was getting 150,000 page views a month, something like this. It wasn't like a big $1 million page views a month blog. It wasn't anything like that, but it was a niche community and it was gaining traffic in that niche community like quite well. Yeah.
Which turned into a monetary opportunity as well, right?
Yeah, it's quite lucrative.
Yeah, because how did you monetize? You mentioned ads and affiliate links. Was that about it?
Or that's all. And I look back in retrospect and I kick myself a lot because it wasn't really a proper business structure. Like I didn't have it structured in a way to streamline and actually make the most of all the people I was helping and the traffic it was getting. Like it was just monetized by ads and affiliates.
Right.
So because of that meant that the third thing was traffic. It's completely reliant on traffic.
If traffic goes down,
then ads and affiliate go down.
Everything goes down.
Exactly.
Right.
Instead of getting the traffic, maybe capturing emails and building my own audience away from these platforms. And
exactly.
So then I'm not reliant on
the traffic.
Own the traffic.
Yeah.
So then you can keep like telling stories, like you can communicate and you can sell.
Run promotions
and all that kind of thing. Which is what I was doing a little bit, but I wasn't going like hard. I didn't really think that it was going to be a problem. Yeah. I'm like, this is going to be around forever. Like I'm just going to live on cloud 9 for the rest of my life. And like I had opportunities to sell it and all these things, but I didn't choose to do that.
Which is crazy, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So that's very interesting. So indeed, like, do you want to throw a number out there, like at a height, what it was like earning in terms of like monetary, or you want to?
Yeah, it was doing like 10 to 13K a month.
Yeah, Australian.
So
that'll be like around 8,000 US or something like that, I guess.
Yeah, something like this. Yeah.
It's really good.
So yeah, it was doing really well, and then it was a combination of like algorithm updates. But then also AI. I think it was initiated from AI because AI was diluting. Yeah, it was almost like it was diluting, but then Google couldn't keep up with that, because there was so much content being put out there.
Oh, that's so interesting.
You know what I mean? So then Google had to take a step back and figure out how they could manage that. And that's what that helpful content update was all about.
Right.
And then as soon as that happened in September, like a lot of niche bloggers' traffic just went way down.
So you called it the helpful content update? Is that what they called it?
Yeah, the unhelpful.
Unhelpful content update.
Depends
my God.
What perspective you look at it from. Yeah.
Do you know anything in particular about this algorithm change? Like what is currently being rewarded more? So apparently it's not necessarily content, as you say, right? Because your like ranking has been going down. So what is Google currently able to sort of see as helpful content? Do you have any idea on that? Or are they just not very open about this? They communicate it.
And again, I'm not an expert. It's not my expertise is this area. I'm just more in the content creation. That's what I love the most.
Right.
I don't really know the technicalities and these kind of things, which is probably what I should know. The people who are going to be watching this are going to be experts on that. And I just want to preface that because
I don't know.
A lot of people might know exactly what's going on. And And that's where the confusion sets in, and that's where like it creates this struggle to move forward in that space, because there isn't that structured outline of what success looks like. It's almost like guesswork. You need to be helpful, and they say write content for humans by humans. Like that's kind of the whole idea behind it.
That's what Google said?
Yeah, but then they keep changing things, and everything keeps changing, and it's very generalized outlines and these kind of things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting space to navigate.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so you feel like right now, because as you said just now, like even if you're doing a Google search at the moment, you might think that like, how would you say, like it's not very helpful, right? Because like right now if you're searching something on Google, you might have like a Reddit or something that doesn't fully answer the question. So you might even think that Google doesn't even have a grip on this anymore.
Yeah, it's fascinating because Reddit does show up quite a lot with a lot of results, right? And it's like, I don't know if like some of those Reddit results are helpful.
Which is interesting because I remember we had a talk last summer. I think it was just before the update.
Right.
And that's when you said like if Reddit ranks on whatever you're searching for, it's a good thing.
Exactly.
Because that means that you can create something better, right?
That's one of the things that I was taught, is like if Reddit is ranking near the top, then that means that it's not being served. Like there aren't other blogs or content creators writing that content.
Right.
So that's a good opportunity for you to fill a value hole in the market.
Yeah.
And write something that's helpful.
Right.
And adds value, and then rank for that.
Yeah.
And then it's just gone complete flipped around. You know, now Reddit's ranking for everything, but that's not a good gauge anymore. That's not a good tip. Like if it's at the top, then yeah.
So should we still link the course in the description, or do you think that's like it's gonna...
for sure.
Okay, cool.
Like they're doing great stuff. They're great people,
cool.
and I really love what they're up to. It's just a matter of the whole industry. It's just throwing a bit of a spanner in the works, and it just takes one to level up and navigate through that. Like that's just all it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I actually am interested as well in like the technical aspect of it, because like what sort of what was like the tech stack like what kind of things did you use behind the scenes? Well, it was a WordPress website, right? Yeah,
so WordPress run websites. It was pretty basic. Like it's not like you're doing your own coding or anything like that, because that's not my skill set either.
Right. You never touched anything of like HTML or CSS or anything like that?
No, not really.
Not really?
Nah, nothing like that. So I can't really offer anything there, sorry. It was just basic WordPress, and my main focus was just on content creation.
Yeah.
The site isn't even like up to my standard of aesthetics. In
right,
terms
okay.
Of, like, I don't really like the way it looks and that kind of thing. It was more as just a solely just value-driven journey of creating written content that I thought could help people.
Exactly.
But I mean, like, there's plugins and things like this that I put into WordPress and change things up and that kind of thing.
Do you use is it Yoast SEO? That's I think one of the most popular SEO tools, or did you have a separate one?
Yeah, I was using Ahrefs there for a while.
Oh, okay.
So that helped me like doing some of the initial research and finding some of those more niche, longer tail keywords that I could serve my audience with. And but other than that, it was just very basic, repetitive process of just writing and following that process. And trying not to overcomplicate it, because I feel like
which is a good thing.
Things simple. So I could just...
Because that's for me sort of like, it can be a disadvantage of knowing a lot of like these technical shiny things. Like you can sort of get lost in a bit of like trying to optimize your site, like make it as fast as possible. While like the most important thing is, as you say, it's actually the content creation, right? And this that's what's gonna make you rank. And it really doesn't matter in the end what you use, really. Of course, like Google takes into account a few of these like performance things. I don't know if you've ever looked at like you can do like a lighthouse audit and stuff, like see your page load speed and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But you can really get lost in that like optimization loop and not really spend enough time on things that are actually way more important. But did you take that into account as well?
I think there's definitely a baseline technicality like process that you need to actually get to. So then obviously Google appreciates and accepts your site, right? Because if your site's loading really slow but you have great content, I don't think you're going to be recommended, because it comes into the user experience, right? Like if you're putting up too many ads on the site and they're scrolling through and they see more ads than they do written content,
right,
then it's a poor user experience. I think it comes down to that, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So if you can create a platform that is a good user experience, and the user journey and the customer journey it just flows and it's natural and it's nice to use, then I feel like it can be recommended from platforms like Google
and make sure it looks good on mobile, right? Because that's like, I think the thing that they just prioritize the most.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I'm working on a project at the moment, and like the website isn't actually the mobile version need to fix. It's I'm not technically minded with that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Again, it's content creation, but it's like I love building stuff anyway.
Right. Yeah. So do you ever see yourself dabbling into that space, or do you think that, like, I mean, like the sort of like the lower level coding and that sort of stuff, do you think that will ever be of interest to you, or?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know? Okay, yeah.
It's fascinating because, like, I see it as like another language, right? Like, coding is like another language of its own, and I can appreciate that. Mm-hmm. And looking at what you're doing behind the scenes with some of the startups you're working on and that kind of thing, I can really appreciate, like, the degree of, like, learning that you've had to do to get to where you're at with the skill levels.
It is definitely a mountain.
So I can really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the thing that maybe deters me from it, is because it's such a mountain to get to the peak of. But you're suggesting just getting to base camp, but like, you know what I mean, like a lower level.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like, it could, like, because I love naturally learning new things and gaining new skills. So I'd definitely be open to learning more.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let me know if you ever need some tips or something like where to start. I can always help you out with that. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, thanks,
Interesting.
Mate.
Cool. So, that's very interesting. So you had a bit of, as you describe it, like Cloud9, sort of like high life sort of period, and then in September last year, that's when this unhelpful content update came along, and everything started to sort of crumble. Like, was it like an instant thing, or was it just like, did your revenue like really change like instantly from one month to the next, or was it more of like a gradual decline, you could say?
It was a semi-gradual, so it happened pretty like instantaneously. Like, soon as that September rolled around, traffic like probably went down 50%. So it went from like 150 to maybe 70 something. And then the next month after that, it was down to like 20. And then now it's just baseline 10. You know what I mean? So it's gone over like 90% decline.
Right, yeah.
And that all happened in the matter of a month or two.
Wow.
So you go from like this grand success to like nothingness. And it's so crazy. Very humbling spiritual journey to stay content.
Right.
Not content, but stay in the fight, or stay in a good mindset in that space. Because I feel for a lot of people who were in the same space that I was in, who have these sites, these niche sites. Mm-hmm. And like me, it was everything. It was my whole income stream. It's what I relied on. Yeah. And to have that all taken away, like a lot of people, I could imagine just like be devastated from that.
Yeah,
and it's definitely a crazy process to go through. But we do label it, well, I labeled it the unhelpful content update. I really feel like it was helpful. Because in retrospect, I look back on the journey and I see it as like this grand awakening. It's this way for me, on my own personal journey. I probably won't get into it, it's a bit deep to go into, but it just feels like it's almost like a rebirth thing for me to reevaluate where I was at from a different perspective, because I was in a space of complacency and comfort. Yeah. Like it was literally passive as you can get income. Like I was not posting anything, and it was just bringing in money. Like you're making money from ads and affiliates. So you've done all the content, and you just
the content is
riding that wave, riding the wave for as long as it could go, and then all of a sudden it stopped.
Yeah, but, which I guess is sort of like a natural thing, right? Because it's like, I don't know if you know the book "Who Moved My Cheese." Ooh, you know that one?
I might have read this one in the early days.
You might want to do a read. It's a very tiny book, but it's talking exactly about this, where you had like two couples of mice, and one of them always stayed hungry and stayed searching, and the other one, when they had this like big stack of cheese, they indulged in it. They made their house out of it, and then as soon as that ran out, they were stuck. You know, they couldn't do anything. But I think that, like, us humans, we sort of have a tendency towards like, once things are comfortable, we try to hold on to it as much as possible. And sometimes we even want to lie about like that it's not going down, like it's still all like very good and shiny, until you're at a point where you cannot like not face it anymore. You have to lower your ego sort of thing to really, face it and go through it. And I think it might be something that you've sort of gone through.
100%. That resonates on a deep level. It seems so true. Like that idea of complacency and being comfortable. It's like you can get so used to that where you do stop growing. Like we're either growing or we're declining. We're not staying the same, right? And through that illusion of what it looked like as I was staying the same, I was actually going down without realizing it, right? And then it took that massive slap in the face for me to realize that, wow, like these whole few months, I've been thinking that I've been fine and just comfortable. Yeah. But really, it's the catalyst that has gotten me way down to where I am now. You know what I mean? Wow. So it's definitely a very spiritual journey in that sense of accepting
which I can understand.
And working through that.
Yeah. That must have been probably in the beginning when it started to happen. Must have been pretty difficult to sort of get through. But you are picking yourself up, and you are trying out new things. So maybe you can give a little bit of an introduction on what happened since then and what you've been kind of like up to, recently, sort of thing.
Yeah, so through that journey, like, and being in that comfort, it's propelled me into a space of dramatic growth or radical action.
Yeah, that's why you mentioned it, radical action.
Radical action. Like it took that to like literally push me towards a greater calling, I feel. Because I feel like I was talking to you about this, the idea of the shadow career, right?
Yeah.
It's this idea that you're working on something that you kind of think is what your thing is, but it's kind of not, because you're comfortable in it, and there's not much growth there, but it's comfortable and it's sustainable, and it's paying the bills and all these things. But is it actually what you're here for? Yeah. Is it actually what your life's energy?
Which is very interesting, because I am like, I've been having the same job for 4 years. I mean, it's a part-time thing, so it's definitely not my main focus, and I think it's a good thing that I've sort of tried to push it in an area of my life where it's indeed just sustaining. But if they were to ask me to work more, I'm not going to do it. Because it's like at this point, like in the company I'm working for, like I don't really feel like it's a huge challenge anymore. So I'm sort of trying to, figure things out on the side and sort of like do my own thing on the side. But as you said, like, it's still paying the bill. So I am not in a position where I really have to force myself to do these sort of things that you are now really forced to do. Like I can still sort of ride the wave for as long as they are being successful and that sort of stuff, and the Dutch like income system, like I told you, like they're very good to the employees, but they're very bad for employers. So I'm just having all of these like benefits and security things that a lot of people say to me, like, oh, you would be really stupid to give it up. But then again, it's also giving me this feeling of like I cannot really. It doesn't give me a lot of like leg room. I mean, it actually does, because I can work from anywhere. It's very flexible, and for a lot of people, it's the dream. So I'm definitely like super grateful for this opportunity. But I do feel that I am being a bit complacent in that sense, and that it's definitely taking me a lot longer to sort of find motivation to like work on these startups sometimes. Especially if I'm not like feeling that good. Like, I will just spend like a week just, chilling and doing something else and not really working on the startup, which I used to like really blame myself on and feel guilty about, but I sort of stopped doing that right now, because I guess it's just a natural thing, right? It's just a natural thing to start to feel complacent and sort of ride the wave as long as you can.
I definitely think, at least from my own experience, life works in like these 5-year cycles. Maybe not 5 years, depends on who you are and what existence you live, but it's been like that for me. I think like every 5 years, and this comes back to the natural law of nature. The most potent truth that is change, right? The only thing that changes is change, right?
No, the only thing that stays the same is change. I think it was.
Sorry, you got it. I love quotes, I can never remember them. And it's in accepting that. Like, it's in accepting that truth. And just reflecting like 5 years, it's like a 5-year cycle, and it's like when you're at the peak, you're riding that wave, and then you come back down, and it's like it's just like this other idea of like when you're in an ocean, you're in a vast ocean, and you're on, and you know how the ocean comes to the top. And you can
Right.
see the land. You might be able to see the island in the distance. If you're on like a raft and you the
like you
ocean
go
rises,
up on the top wave and then you see above
you
everything
can see
else.
everything, and that's where it's all comfortable and dandy, right?
Yeah.
Then the ocean falls down, and all that surrounds you is water, right? And you're in like the base of the ocean, like you know what I mean when it's doing this. I feel like life is like that sometimes, right? And it's when you're in that you need to have the acceptance for it and realize that you're going to come back up to see the island again.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one. So you've sort of are going through this now and gone through this like humbling experience. How have you been able to, with your radical action, what have you been able to sort of make happen at this point, like from that moment?
Yeah, it's made me think about the direction moving forward in a way that aligns much more with my true calling and my purpose and what I feel like I want to do. Because ultimately life is extremely short, right?
Yeah.
And when you have that experience, I spent 5 years building something that was just taken away in just like one day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's understanding that truth that, like, once you lose everything, then you're free to do anything, right?
Yeah. Because you got nothing more to lose.
Exactly. When you get to a place where you have lost everything.
Yeah.
And like I say everything lightly, like I'm very grateful for the things that I still do have.
Yeah, you still have, yeah.
But in the space of business and losing literally everything financial, like, you know, in the space that it was.
Right, yeah.
Like, then you're free. And you're more open-minded and you're more fluid to look at it from a different perspective, and maybe in a perspective that's much more beneficial for your higher self moving forward.
It sort of opens yourself up to like new opportunities and new things that can come your way, right?
Yeah, it's like a rebirth. It's like a perspective shift as well. Like you're seeing things with fresh eyes because in the comfort, I feel like you're just seeing the same thing in the same way. Because you're not forced to look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah,
it's all perspective, right?
Yeah.
So I guess for me, it's just been a matter of listening and tuning into what I think that path looks like for me, and then fully taking that on and embodying that.
Yeah.
And for me, it is video content. It's telling stories in a visual way that connects deeply with an audience. And I did kind of neglect that for just written content. Like, I failed English in high school, and English isn't writing isn't something that I'm great at. Probably you can tell that by the way I communicate on camera or talking. But, like, it's something I struggle with sometimes.
Okay.
And I mean, like, videos, you're still talking, right? But in terms of the writing aspect, and I went deep into a blog for 5 years doing that. And, like, maybe there is something to working on the things that you are less strong at, like your weaknesses, right?
Right, yeah.
So you can sort of become better in them. And I feel like I have in that space. And that's just another stepping stone to where I'm going in terms of script writing and that kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, for me, it's been more of a focus on using YouTube as a vehicle for traffic. Because I feel like that's a very untapped space at the moment. A lot of people aren't creating content as much as they are with a blog. On YouTube.
Wow.
And Google is promoting YouTube videos in search results as well.
Oh, that's so interesting.
You know, and obviously YouTube is a visual search engine. It's the second biggest search engine in the world. So there's a lot of value you can provide in that space if you, like you have with some of your videos. You know, like creating some of those sort of more helpful style videos that get actually
100%.
found.
Yeah, 100%. But that's the thing that I like sort of think is like, this was what I did like 5-6 years ago. I actually thought at this point like YouTube was sort of not dead, but like, but then there might actually be like an opportunity now, as you indeed say, that Google is trying to like come up with these like visual things. But I always thought that like at this point YouTube is kind of declining a little bit, and the biggest reason for that might be the shorts, the reels, and that sort of stuff. Might be interesting to have your take on that. Like, what do you think of that like recent development in how content is being consumed?
Ooh, I love this topic.
Okay.
Well, I have an opinion on it. I'm not sure how well it will be received, but in terms of like the idea of like dopamine and the attention span deficiency, I guess, of this shorter form content, like it's probably teaching people to like be a lot more distracted and be unable to focus in boredom. Because I feel like if we are creators and we want to create content, we need to learn like deep work, right? We need to learn to channel our focus and energy on something for a long period of time. And it depends on what type of consumer you are, and if you do manage it, if you are like only, you know, like you have on your phone, like you're on TikTok or Instagram for like 10 minutes and it locks you out. If you're able to manage it like that.
I need those. Yeah, I need those apps though.
Yeah,
you need them.
I feel like if you can manage it, then it's manageable, right?
Right.
But a lot of people growing up in this space, I feel for them if they're constantly scrolling, and it's probably doing something to their mind. But in terms of that in a content creation side of things, I feel like shorter form is a great way to get people aware of your longer form content. And I like the idea of creating like the whole structure of content creation in terms of just creating long form content, like one long form piece of content like this. Taking snippets, using that for shorter content, shorter form content, and then like taking the transcript and using that for like a newsletter and all of this.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Like
so
repurposing.
Repurposing.
That's a good point.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I love storytelling in the form of like documentary style, so that means longer form. I was gonna say, because I feel like especially with storytelling, it's just impossible to do it in a 30-second reel. Like you cannot get much further than just the surface level. You can tell a story in 30 seconds, I reckon, but you don't, again, surface level, you don't get the depth.
I mean, that's true. You can get creative, because the other day I was following someone who like walked the Aurora Trail in New Zealand. He was doing it via reel, so he was like making a daily thing, and he was able to sort of like pick the highlights of the day. And I found it very interesting to follow. Like every day he had like a little update. But I definitely do feel that like this new sort of like reels and that's sort of like how we consume content these days is very different from like 5 years ago when everybody was watching these vlogs. Because I felt like with vlogs you can really establish a relationship with someone. It's like, I mean, it's only 10 minutes of your time, but I feel like these days just people don't even have time for that. You know what I mean? Because I did try to make a bit of a comeback last year. And I just feel like people just don't have time anymore to watch even 10-minute videos for certain things.
Interesting.
But it might be like a twist where you say like if it's really like valuable and helpful content, people will make time for it maybe.
Right.
So it might be just like a change of like maybe the type of content that you put out there. It's like different.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this has any potency, but I do notice with one of the YouTube channels I'm working on at the moment is like the what do you call it? Like the watch time is sort of quite short. Like if I put out a video that's 13 minutes, people might only watch it till like 3 or 4 minutes into the video. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's normal or not, but that seems like people don't really... and maybe the video is just boring and they're off it. But it aligns pretty well with the audience that it's been targeted to, so I'm not sure what the goal is there. And it's very complex. There's a lot in terms of human psychology and the pattern of where we're going in terms of our attention. And all of that, right?
Yeah, that's interesting.
So that's really interesting to sort of...
But you do feel that right now with your YouTube content, it is helpful to your blog and everything like that. You do feel like this is going to be a meaningful and also like a monetarily, how do you call that? Like lucrative thing to do? You think that's...
I think so.
You think so?
It's been a struggle to navigate it because, like I said, YouTube has been the hardest thing for me to monetize.
Yeah.
Because, like with ads and things, you do only earn a little bit compared to what you would ads on a blog, right?
Yeah.
It's quite a dramatic difference, but it requires quite a lot of views, I think, to make that sustainable. But then there's other lucrative ways to build income streams in the background, whether it is through affiliates and creating your own products, which is what I'm working on at the moment as well.
Yeah.
So that's a whole process that is a little murky for me at the moment, but I'm working through it and it's making more and more sense each day.
And I think one that we haven't mentioned, it might be sponsorships as well. I guess like I saw that you showed me some of like that sort of thing where you could have like sponsorship deals that could be like long term even, so they're just paying you on a regular basis for you to just like mention it in your videos, sort of thing, right? Like would you say that's a big one as well? Yeah,
that's been something that's generated some income in the past and something I'm looking into doing at the moment. Yeah. Because it adds value to a brand. Because again, because it's niche, that has a lot of value. You don't have to have 100,000 subscribers to provide a brand value if it's in a niche like that.
Right.
And again, I'm talking about niche and that kind of thing, which is something I don't really agree with. It's funny.
Okay.
Because like I love the idea of you are your own niche, and that we can talk about that probably with like our personal brands and like our vision with that. But like for me, like I love the idea of like you being the niche in terms of the things you're interested in.
Yeah.
You like going deep into philosophical ideas, but you also love documenting your adventures and all these other things.
Yes.
And then on top of that, maybe you have a fascination for cats as well.
Right.
Like, and just combining that all together is what the niche is.
Yeah.
Right? But then it's like, but people might not be interested in cats.
Right.
But then also like, you know, all these other things. And then it's like, it creates a little bit of confusion if you are the content creator.
I think
But I really like the idea of you are the niche though. I feel like that's a direction worth pursuing.
Interesting. I think indeed it can be a very satisfying thing, but I think it can be a bit of a trap as well, because if you're like, I have this with my friend who basically his channel is him. So he likes reef tanks, he likes recombinant tracks, he likes van life now. Like he's putting all of these different niches on his main channel, and I feel like at some point the only way you can still follow a person like that is if you really like the person, if you just like the personality, if you like what he is about, which I think personally is really difficult if you want to grow very big. It's better to sort of look at it from like the market perspective and see indeed where the sub niches are. But I do agree with like if we're talking about something meaningful, and I feel like that's what you might have struggled with when you went to like the Cycle Travel Overload blog sort of thing, is you were serving this niche which wasn't, it was a part of you, but it wasn't all of you. And I actually have a similar thing where like this channel is sort of like my tech side of things, and my TravelingTice channel I would more call like it's more of like my identity, where I just put anything that I sort of feel like.
Right.
But I still have in the back of my mind a feeling of like, oh, I should keep that channel to travel related content as well. But I do understand it can be restricting.
Yeah. I feel like maybe there is a way around it though, in terms of if you are to find that niche, like for example what I have with the adventure cycling space. But then I also have an interest in philosophical ideas and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But there's a way to fuse that into that content.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you can sort of fulfill your desires to want to share that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I've done that in some videos, and I feel like it's a way to move forward in that space, at least to gain the passion back for it. That's really helped in gaining the passion back for it as well in that space, because a lot before the content creation was just like, it's this bike and this bike does that, and it's very like granular. But then trying to infuse genuine like personality into it, and then a lot of your interest in terms of connecting these deeper ideas in with like a type of bike you're talking about and what the purpose was behind that bike, for example, and that kind of thing. Like creating connections like that, I feel like is a way to move through that.
Right.
But and that's kind of getting the best of both worlds, right? Because you are sort of fulfilling a multifaceted sort of version of yourself into a singular niche, if that makes sense. So you're taking that and you're bringing it into. You're
giving it like a bit of your own flavor. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, and that's I think
a good way for growth, I think. And I'm seeing that at the moment with that channel. It's doing.
Oh, cool.
It's just because the algorithm is pushing that out, right?
Okay.
Because it understands the audience. Like I think you need to get to a point where YouTube, for example, understands who your audience is, so then they can throw it out to that audience and test it. And when they do throw it out and the video does match the audience and they like it, then it goes out to more audience, and then it just spreads like a wildfire until like you reach where you want to reach. You know what I mean? And it's really interesting to be on that journey. It's like people have a couple of thousand subscribers, but the video's got 100,000 views. There was two things to it, like it had a good thumbnail or it had a good title, and then it's like taking that title idea and concept and creating a video about it that aligns obviously with your lifestyle and what you're living at the moment, right? It's not like you're making a video completely off topic. But again, when it comes to like the personal niche sort of thing, it's hard to box that in when you're creating content around those type of ideas. And I feel like it hurts. The algorithm just doesn't like it maybe when you jump around from too many topics too much.
Right.
This is just an idea, and I don't like to accept this as a truth, but I feel like this could be a problem that is a bit of a struggle for creators.
Right.
Is when you do like spread yourself over too many things you don't really gain traction because it confuses the algorithms. Because algorithms are audiences, right? So if we're building a channel and we're getting people watching, right? And then we're changing to a different topic, like it's confusing the algorithm, confusing the audience.
Interesting.
You know?
So you're seeing with this other channel that you have, which I guess is sort of still... Is it kind of like the YouTube representation of your blog? Like you're sort of putting the same content out there, but a bit more of like a personal touch, as you say, right? You feel like that's started to being picked up by the algorithm. So like, as you just now described, like it starts to like try things out.
I think there's 3 things to it. So it's repurposing the same kind of content that I have been on the YouTube channel. So it's taking those higher ranking articles, the ones that are getting the most traffic, turning them into video format. Right?
Yeah.
And producing that kind of video. Well, then the third one isn't really, the second one isn't really the second one. It's more like fusing in your personality a lot more. Yeah. And the deeper things you're interested in, like for me, the philosophical ideas and all these other things.
Sort of keep your passion, sort of like your fire, sort of.
Yeah, to connect it to it. Right. And then it's finding those other videos and the other content that has potentiality for virality. Like the ability to get over 100,000 views per video. Right. And there's a strategy into doing that, into going through YouTube and finding these videos that have high interest, but for some reason people aren't subscribed to them. So it's like, it means like there's an essence to that video idea that has interest in the psychology of people. Right. Okay. Right? There's something in that sort of sparks people's curiosity to want to watch it. Right. And it's trying to understand the whole like viewer journey of why they clicked on that video, which is something that I'm diving into.
Interesting. Right? Wow. Yeah. It almost sounds like a Mr. Beast sort of like, right? Because he's like super analytical about this as well. Right. With success, because, you know, he's like totally taking off and becoming a huge empire at this moment. But yeah, that's so interesting, man. So that's very cool. Thanks for sharing a bit on that YouTube journey. And then the last thing I kind of want to touch on is this other sort of like product journey that you're on with Zuetani, right? So it's like, it starts with a travel blender, but there's a lot more to it, as you've like explained to me over the last 2 days. So maybe you can touch a little bit on that. Yeah. So it's such a beautiful experience to be a part of. I've co-founded this company with my business partner, and it's just a beautiful journey that we're on because we align so deeply with the essence of what this company is about and what our mission is. And essentially, Zuetani, it means you and me. So it's sharing this beautiful concept of interconnectedness that we all have as human beings that might get a little bit diluted or lost in today's world. Like sometimes we might forget that. And I think it's just a reminder of where we all come from. And through what seems separation, we're actually kind of all connected. We are all one. And it's sharing that message. It comes back to bike touring, and you can relate to this when you're traveling through a country and you meet these local communities and you get to really get a really intimate, deep connection to the land and to the people that you travel through, because you're traveling slowly, you're traveling in a way that is open. You're not in a box on wheels traveling through that place. You're literally in the world. You're in it. You're immersed in it, and you're deeply connected. And there's just... I have an immense passion for connecting to those people and their stories and telling their stories. And this is a platform for that. I see that as a vehicle for us to share these stories for greater impact, just to make the world a better place. And there's so much more to it. We want to go big with it. We want to expand in different ways and do these other things with it. So you'll have to stay tuned for that. But there's quite a lot there. And it aligns quite deeply with my purpose and mission in life, and just so grateful to be on the journey. Very cool. But it all starts with the travel blender, right? Right. So there's one product that, just explain it. Yeah. So I'm a vegan myself, and I value whole foods, plant-based food for health and ethical practices and for impacting the world in a positive light. And that has a connection to that because it's creating food, but it's bigger than that as well. It's also for people who are responsible travelers, people who are eco-conscious, people who care about the land they travel through. And this product is a way to fuel them on those journeys. It's a way for them to create food
and cook food in places that you might not be able to. Like
Right.
you travel to a hotel or something, for example, even if you
Right.
want to like, boil water and things like that, like sometimes you might not want to use the kettle because, it's been
Yeah.
used 1,000 times. It's just more of a...
It's some places
health
don't
thing.
even have one.
Exactly. There's
Yeah.
no kitchen really set up, and this
Yeah.
this product is really cool tool to create some interesting food
Interesting.
on the go.
Right.
And that's where it's all starting, but I see it much grander and bigger than that.
Yeah.
It is a product, but we're not just selling a product. We're telling stories that connect deeply and create impact and
Very
and
cool.
give back a profit for good, like giving back to these communities and the charities and the organizations that they care about, and artists as well. We want to help a lot of artists and that kind of thing, get their art out into the world, but then also support what they're supporting. So we see it as this vehicle for just compounded positive impact.
Wow, very cool. And you also mentioned about like the ethical sort of way about it, right? Like it's sort of like you want to have it in like an ethical sort of way, and you want to take in all of those aspects as well, right? Like it's sort of like where this first project is sort of starting at, right?
Yeah, that's a big value that drives us forward.
Yeah.
It's making sure that everything along the journey has that thought in that process of what kind of impact it's having. And I mean, like, when I talk about veganism, for example, like, I do it from a space of trying to create the least amount of impact that I can with my life.
Right.
But I understand also that
least amount of physical impact.
the least amount
not like
is
meaningful
possible,
impact.
but it's not going to stop it completely, right?
Yeah.
I understand
You're
that
just gonna
too, but
leave
it's
your
like,
mark,
I think
yeah.
it's having the intention behind,
Yeah.
moving through life with that, I think is important. And that's kind of the essence that we're going through with that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Nice. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that journey and all of those things that have been happening over the past, 5 years since we sort of known each other. I've definitely learned a lot about, the whole journey, and it's very interesting that like we've both gone on like a bit of a different path, but sort of a very similar as well. And it's like when we met, like yesterday morning at like a cafe here close by, and it was so funny, like it almost felt like familiar in some ways, right? Because like we do have a very similar sort of character in a way of like how we approach life, which is very, very cool. So yeah, thank you for being on the podcast. I don't know if you have any last things you want to mention or say, or like places where people can find you. Of course, you've got your own channel, which is Codey Orgill. You want to mention anything else?
Yeah, man, I'm like so grateful. Thank you for creating this opportunity so we can meet. It's been a long time coming, and it's just really cool, I think, when I just can't comprehend sometimes the incalculability of YouTube. Like, the ability for us to create content and put it out onto this thing called the internet. People being attracted to wanting to watch our videos, and look through the law of attraction, attracting a type of person that is like-minded.
Yeah.
And then from that, meeting in person.
Yeah.
And like for the first time, but like maybe not the first time, and been here before a few
It's
times.
so crazy. Look at like if this were to happen, like 50 years ago. I mean, after I'm from the Netherlands, you're from Australia. This could have never taken place. You know what I mean?
And like we've talked about it, and you've talked about how like in your community, like you struggle to find people who are probably like-minded to you, right?
Yeah,
and
like you mean from back home sort of thing. Yeah, I definitely feel like because I'm from like a small town where everybody's sort of like get their job and sort of live like a very normal life. But I always sort of knew that like I was in it for like a different sort of unique life. And that's when I just, I mean, basically for me, like even from like the early developments when I was like 14, 15, YouTube was already starting to come up. So like I was always sort of brought up with, the world's your oyster, and you can just find like your own little thing. And for me it was bicycle touring. That's what got me like introduced to the bigger world out there. And I've had like meetings like you before where like people would follow my YouTube channel and even recognize me on the street, It's just like these crazy things that were just never possible before that time. But
it's so beautiful to think, hey, like it's something to be so grateful for, because a lot of people, like, I don't know, you said 50 years ago, right? Like they probably didn't have that opportunity, and they just knew the people they knew in their community, which is still something so beautiful. But like I feel like it's just, something to be incredibly grateful for, like to have the ability to expand like our reach, like on a global level,
exactly,
and connect to people that are very like-minded. So yeah,
very
really
cool.
grateful.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, you guys can follow me on Codey Orgill on Instagram and YouTube, and my adventure cycling brand is Cycle Travel Overload, and got Zuetani as well. But yeah, Codey's my main thing, so you can follow me there.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Mate.
Yeah, thanks. Awesome. All right.
Cheers.
Well done. Awesome. All right. See you next time.